Rise and shine on Australia's Vision Christian Radio.
We light the fire, we sit down, we pull the Bibles out, Phil, and we dig deep into a chapter of the Bible every time. We're up to chapter 24 of Acts, aren't we?
And look, if you've wondered, hey, how can I get a hold of the Bible? I found out yesterday, and I feel a bit late to the party here actually, that if you open the Vision Christian Media app, so it's free from download from the App Store, there's actually a Bible there.
There you go.
So if you open the app, you can see all the channels, the different streams that we use. There's podcasts, you can watch videos, but the next button at the bottom is a Bible. So you can listen and read to the Bible through the app.
That app's amazing. So many resources on there. It's all free. Podcasts. You can listen to Vision Christian Radio Live. You can listen to Vision Worship. What a plug for the app, Phil.
Very impressed.
It's not even in Acts 24, but we're going there.
Wait, there's more. There's also a Bible. Who would have thought? But there you go. That's the Vision Christian Media app. So if you haven't got a physical Bible, encourage you to grab out the app, or there's the Bible app. You can read along with us. And we are in Acts 24. And I think maybe we just give a little bit of context to why we're here.
Yeah.
Because Paul he's facing a trial at the moment. Like literally, people are asking him some questions that could mean life or death to him. But he ended up there. It's not really a surprise to him, is it, Andy?
Yeah, it's and we said this earlier, but we just want to remind, in case you're listening for the first time, the religious leaders of the day were also political leaders. So it wasn't just...
That's good.
And you can sort of see this in modern-day Iran. Like the government of Iran is a religious government as well as a secular government. They merged the two in one.
Right.
And this is what the Jewish religion was like too. So when Paul's on trial, they're trying him because of religious issues, but they're also got political clout. So he's on trial. What I find interesting here, Phil, as a student of history, as you know, but if someone doesn't know, I did a history degree, including ancient history, and this highlights something about the ancient world, which helps us understand the apostles a bit better. It says they brought a certain orator down. His name was Tertullus, and the Jews brought him down to speak about Paul and against Paul in this trial. And so even in this time in ancient Greece and Rome, there were these orators who could just wow crowds and woo crowds, and they were gifted and skilled. So when Paul says, I wasn't a great speaker and I wasn't a gifted orator, in other words, he wasn't one of these public speakers, and yet God still used him. And same for Peter. Like when they said Peter and John were uneducated and untrained men, what that means is they weren't trained orators. They weren't the ones that could stand in front of a crowd of thousands without a microphone and just wow a crowd. So it's good to remember that these apostles were just normal people like you and me, Phil, that God used to speak through.
And once they had the Holy Spirit upon them, you could see them doing great things. And that's the same for God today. As we say, hey, here I am, use me, he can do exactly the same for us today.
Yeah, you don't have to be an A-list celebrity or popular or cool or even strong in yourself. But this Tertullus, we won't read it out, but you can just read in his address. It's such a cool speech he gives, and it would convince most people. But
and he's flattering the leader. He's in front of someone. He says, "Your Excellency," like he's kind of, you have done such a great job of this and that, and because he's in front of the Roman leader at that point, and you've got one side, you've got these Jewish leaders, on the other, you've got Paul. And so they're really trying to make their case first, and they make a very good case.
But they can't defeat Paul because, as you said, Paul's filled with the Holy Spirit, and his defence is really convincing, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah, that's right. And he talks about it, and he says, "Sir, you've been the judge." And again, he says he recognises that the judge at this point has been aware of the Jewish affairs for quite a few years. But he says, I arrived in Jerusalem no more than 12 days ago. What they're telling you is completely false. And he lays out his evidence very well, actually, I think. When you read through Acts 24, you can see Paul giving his defence in a really educated way. But in the end, Felix is the guy they're presenting this to. And Felix, the gentleman, he says he's actually quite familiar with Christians, and they call it the way at this point. He's familiar with it. And so he adjourns it and says, hey, you know what? How about we wait a bit? I'm not going to make a decision right now. But I like this. He ordered the officer to keep Paul in custody, but to give him some freedom and allow his friends to visit him and take care of his needs. So you can see a softening of his heart towards Paul.
Yeah, there's a real grace there, and it gives Paul more time. And we know in these times where Paul was not idle. He was writing letters to the churches. He was praying. He says in the book of Galatians, I labour again for all of you that Christ will be formed in your hearts. So we know in these times of imprisonment that Paul used his time to pray a lot and to send letters and just really trust God that he would move through all these churches across the world.
And there you go. That is Acts 24. It's really exciting because you're going to see next what happens. Paul is left in custody. So when we get to the end of this chapter, he's going to be remaining in custody. Someone else is coming in to take over and he'll have to go through another trial. We'll tell you about that trial tomorrow. But you're right, it's exciting to read. The letters that you're reading were often written during some really tough times for Paul.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting context to be aware of as you read them. It wasn't like everything was roses and brilliant for Paul all the time. He wasn't walking on clouds. He was doing some really tough things.
It wasn't all beer and Skittles, as the old Australian saying goes, Phil.
That is right. But look, we'll bring you Acts 25 tomorrow.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.